Addictions seem to be one of the most requested subjects that you want to talk to me about, and I've been meaning to record this video for a long time. What finally made me do it was a message I received from the entities telling me off for deviating too far from my spiritual path and getting a bit lost in this existence. It turned out I was temporarily focusing too much on earthly pleasures. That, and the recent death of Matthew Perry, the famous actor from the sitcom Friends, was a sign for me that the time has come to deal with this difficult subject. Friends was one of the most important early TV series in my life that makes me laugh to this day, and although Perry was of course undoubtedly a part of the Hollywood establishment, I decided that his death and his drug and alcohol addiction is a signal that it's time we talked about this. You might ask, what might be so significant in this actor's passing for me? And if you've been watching the videos here for a few years, you'll know that I have talked to many deceased family members on mushrooms. It occurred to me that they all have the same in common. Like Matthew, my cousin, my grandfather, and my friend Martin, who I talked about recently, they all died because of addiction to alcohol. The death of this talented, yet reportedly very toxic TV personality shows how powerful addictions can be, as no amount of fame and money can be useful in stopping the painful spiral of self-destruction and loss of control. I consider myself to be a good guide for you regarding addictions, as I do not have an addictive personality and I do not struggle with anything. Whatever makes me feel good, I can stop anytime without any problems, and I have full control over my life's pleasures and habits. As you can remember, there are two things that I've always had a weakness for, and they are sugar and, up to recently, sex. Both pleasurable and non-destructive, and although I identify them as somewhat problematic for me, I can control them in any way I want. It appears that addictions are not a lesson for me in this particular existence, and I feel like it's something that I must have mastered throughout many incarnations. And since I have this strength and knowledge to control these earthly vices, I can help you with yours. So let's talk about what defines an addiction from a physical and metaphysical perspective, how I beat mine, how to beat yours, and why it is important. For some, this is a complex problem, and if you feel like you need help, don't hesitate and reach out to me and schedule a chat. Improve your life by getting all the help you need. If this video helps you in any other way, or if you just want to help me continue with my work, please be so kind and generous to donate or join Patreon or Subscribestar. You can also buy merchandise. All of this means a lot to me. Thanks a million. All links in the video description. So how do we define addiction? You need to understand that we love our habits more than our life. All the money in the world is spent on pleasures, and our life today is filled with endless possibilities and things you can get addicted to. The problem is now so serious that apparently there are loud voices in the spirit world raising the issue of Earth no longer being able to serve its function as a training ground for the souls who come here, as it is too easy to get lost in all the available distractions, not letting us wake up from the human dream. We're all addicted to something. That's why it is crucial to remember that no matter what your habits are, every addiction is harmful, not just to your earthly body, but also to your spiritual development. Every form of addiction is bad, no matter whether it's drugs, alcohol, negative thinking, power, person, money, or idealism. But because I don't want anyone to feel judged here, it is important to explain that addiction mechanisms are often justified and understandable, as they are rooted in the need to cover up pain. And here lies the challenge. Almost every addiction is a subconscious rejection of reality and a refusal to face our problems. Sometimes an addiction is a result of an empty life. When we don't work on our spiritual joys, we are forced to obsessively rely on physical pleasures, and we create escapism, a mechanism of denial and destruction. An addiction often acts as an anesthetic to the pain of existence, so misunderstood by many. Things become clearer when we realize that every addiction starts with pain and ends with pain, and if we do anything long enough to remedy the habit of living, sooner or later, the remedy becomes the habit. It is not that one addictive thing that makes us addicted. It is the need to escape from our reality. We can't be at peace unless we have our freedom, and an addiction is a slavery that takes away both our peace and our freedom. Addictions start with us enjoying things that are fun, that feel amazing, often things we have never experienced before. Soon we allow them to make some small choices, and before we realize, somehow we delegate all of our life-changing decisions to these powerful addictions that started as little habits. And the decisions they make appear to be very random, unintelligent, and highly detrimental to our well-being, often life-threatening. That's the danger of these dependencies getting out of control. We mistakenly believe that addictions are always related to substance abuse, but that's not correct, although it will be true in big majority of these cases with the most severe consequences. We can get addicted to virtually anything. No other addiction is as visible and prevalent as addiction to food or even the habit of eating. This highly noticeable substance dependence turns us into walking billboards for our impulsivity, reward-oriented behavior, and lack of self-control. As a thumbnail for this video, I have picked Matthew Perry as an example of one of these substance abuse cases that are stronger than anything else in life. I know this very well, as the history of alcohol abuse in my family is long, omnipresent, and tragic. In the video, Talking to the Dead, I told you a story of my deceased cousin who I talked to on mushrooms. He died of a heart attack right after he got out of his decade-long drinking problem, and that's something I need to warn you about. What I haven't mentioned in that video was that he got so self-destructive after years of being mistreated by his abusive alcoholic stepfather. A man who, having a history of years of violence towards his family, eventually got beaten up by my cousin, and a few years later hanged himself on a shower curtain rod, but not before trying to blow up the apartment building in which they lived. And that's something I see around me all the time. Although not always so vicious and dramatic, the end of alcohol abuse will have a tragic end in some form. From my observation, it seems that drinking has one of the most profound and detrimental impacts on health from all legal substances we can get addicted to, and I hope this video can serve as a warning. Another not so obvious dependency is addiction to a person or a group of people. It is something we hardly ever think about, yet it shapes our whole life, and this one is probably the most difficult to get out of. And if you had a chance to see the previous video on the shape of the earth, you can observe what an addiction to ideology looks like, where not being able to let go of our social conditioning keeps most of these people in a perpetual cycle of lies and servitude and makes them defend the system of reality distortion they were subscribed to. But because we deal here with psychedelics, it is important that we now focus on them, although there is not much to focus on because luckily for us, these substances are not physically addictive. The state they put us in can be, like anything else. But despite what the governments want you to believe, they're the least of our problems. Unlike perfectly legal sugar, coffee, alcohol, cigarettes, or prescription drugs. In fact, psychoactive substances are incredibly helpful in getting rid of addictions, and they have a long history of saving lives of those who were at the end of their resilience to the harmful effects of drugs and alcohol. In my case, thanks to psychedelics, I got in contact with outer dimensional entities who made me aware that I'm wasting my time on Earth not progressing spiritually and taking 6 months between recording 2 parts of the infamous Insider videos. They said, "You get intoxicated on earthly addictions too often now, like going out to restaurants and eating and then concentrating on these earthly little pleasures instead of working on developing. They are your lesson, your weakness to work on." And they were absolutely right. Although not addicted to these earthly pleasures, I still spend way too much time enjoying myself and getting stuck in my comfort zone for too long, instead of working really hard on my assignment in this reality. They also told me, "It's absolutely shocking that your mind is afraid of letting go of that scared personality and fear. You're addicted to the emotion of being anxious. How crazy is that?" I never realized that we can get used to toxic emotions that are harmful to our development, but seemingly it is possible. Throughout the years of my contact with machine elves, I was shown both how all of us here are hooked on low-frequency earthly pleasures, but also how easy it is to control them, and that we are wrong about addictions. Once I understood that we come here for a reason and that all of our flaws and problems in life are a map to our purpose, it became clear that addictions are also one of them. The key to stopping these harmful habits and dependencies is realizing that you came here with everything necessary to complete this lesson. You are never burdened with more than you can handle, and it is just a matter of your will to go through these lessons. You came here to develop spiritually before you can progress to the next stage of existence, a non-physical form. The entities told me that before this happens, you need to master being a human. And in order to do that, you need to stop being addicted to being a human. You're not here to suffer endlessly or to end your incarnation with the help of a toxic substance. You're here to find in yourself the strength to stop the vicious cycle of doubt and auto-destruction. No matter whether it's being addicted to procrastinating or sleeping pills. Undoubtedly, being on Earth means having your life controlled by earthly fixations and obsessions, but one of your main purposes here is to face them and control them. How? It seems that the behavior of an addict makes very little sense, yet it all becomes logical once you understand that they have very little control over their addictions. When they can stop, they don't have to or don't want to. But when it becomes serious and they do want to stop, they can't, and they're helpless unless somebody offers them a plan in the form of a structured advice. And this is what I want to do here. I'll do this by telling you about my struggle with being addicted to sugar. My first time quitting this lifelong problem was surprisingly difficult. It was a very strong addiction that controlled my diet and my eating habits, and it was quite surprising to me how strong this seemingly trivial addiction actually is. I remember that when I tried doing it cold turkey, I would catch myself eating candy and spitting it out immediately. It made no sense, so I decided to do it gradually. I slowly learned about the physical symptoms of sugar withdrawal like tiredness, headaches, and moodiness, and I was prepared to accept all of them if it meant getting rid of this unhealthy habit. Initially, the cravings were getting stronger and stronger, but I kept in mind that I have a goal, and I remembered that giving up once could cancel the whole process. I identified the moments where I was craving sugar the most, and it was after eating a meal made of mixed foods, things that produced acidic pH in my body. I would control my cravings by replacing sugar with fruit and patiently waiting a few hours. Eventually, after a few days, the strong cravings went away. I stayed strong when my body was in pain or was revolting against me. I changed my diet and I celebrated each day of me being sugar-free. I remembered to keep myself busy not to think too much about my addiction, and eventually after 2 or 3 weeks, it turned out that I was free from my sugar addiction, and I kept this bitter memory of my struggle as a simple method to not ever make the same mistakes again. Once all my physical cravings were gone, the only thing that was left were easy to control habits during rare occasions like social gatherings. Once you get rid of the physical addiction, controlling your behavior is much easier. And to this day, this is how I pretty much approach every potential addiction that could enslave me. It is all a matter of logic, strength, and good memory. In terms of the protocol and the practical side of battling the addiction, here's what you need. Awareness is key in understanding that addictions are toxic and that eventually they might destroy your life. Keep in mind that it is a pointless activity and that people who, for example, drink to get rid of their problems, very often forget that problems can swim in alcohol. You will need to change the qualification of your addiction as it's not a disease. It is 100% your decision that you need to take responsibility for. You will need to identify the true cause of your habit, and in my case, for example, my sexual addiction was a simple need for love. That's all it was, but it took a mushroom trip to get to the bottom of it. You need that awareness. You have to develop that control mechanism as that's what you lack. That's what you need in order to stay strong and in charge of your cravings. There are no shortcuts and miracle cures. Addicts can be smart and they know no shame, but you're either on top of your habits or they will control you and will eventually ruin you. In the moments when you decide to engage in addictive habits, it's not that you're unaccountable for your actions. You decide to do this in this state of being sober and aware. Thus, addiction is simply a weakness of will or decision-making. That one moment controls your whole addiction process. You have the strength to stop yourself from engaging in it, but in order to do this, you need to learn yourself and you need to identify the reasons why you relapse. You will need to study and understand the mechanism of your personal addiction, and you'll need to identify and stop all the excuses. In case of alcohol, it seems that people drink when something bad happens, because they try to forget. But then, when something good happens, they drink to celebrate. And if nothing happens, very often they will drink to make something happen. As you can see, it's not the circumstances that cause it. These are our own decisions. You will need to test yourself, and if it turns out that you can stop anytime you want to, do it and see what happens long term. Remember that if you can stop for a day, it means you can stop forever, every day. This strength you have for one day can be replicated endlessly. Associate the moments of self-control with a sense of pride and joy and celebrate your every achievement. And of course, if it makes it any easier for you, distract yourself and make sure that you're busy during that difficult time. It only takes a few weeks of strength to avoid years or even decades of pain. It's really that simple, and everybody can do it, especially if you ask your loved ones for help. It's also easier to go through this process with somebody else who has the same problem. It's all up to you, so don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Also, a very important part of this is understanding the spiritual aspect of addiction, and you must take it into account once you have the practical guidance. It is difficult to believe in yourself as a separate being because it is somewhat of a misguided concept. If you remember that you're in fact a part of the Creator who has endless manifesting and creating abilities, you'll understand that everything that you need to beat this addiction is already deep inside of you, and it's just a matter of you accessing it. If you decide to define yourself through your addiction, this will make everything much more difficult, but once you keep in mind the image of who you are and who you want to stay, you will do yourself an enormous favor by strengthening your will. Your habits and your cravings are actually drivers that guide you in life, and once you change them, very often you change your whole life's direction. That's why it is so important to look at your life from a spiritual perspective, and why you need to take full accountability for your decision to come here with these problems. It's important that you understand that you chose this existence for yourself, and that this battle is in reality you fighting your own weakness that has been with you possibly for many earthly lives. It would be beneficial to your future as a soul to overcome it as fast as possible, ideally in this incarnation. And of course, why not make it easier for yourself by using psychedelics? They will have a very important impact on your life and your struggles in a way that you cannot even imagine. You might learn that you're actually much stronger than you think. It is also important to understand that ridding yourself of addictions requires being honest with yourself, no matter what truth you discover in the process. And since this will be a life-changing event, it would be beneficial for you to give your life some meaning. That's usually the foundation of every addiction-beating process. Once you learn that love, joy, and hope are the support structures of this existence, you will stop giving the material all the energy. Nothing in the material world can love you back, and it does not offer anything other than strengthening your ego. It is the spiritual and the metaphysical that matter, in your understanding of who you really are and why you are here. You're a divine being capable of amazing acts and accomplishments. You can't let anything or anyone stand in your way or control you. You are too important, and your life matters too much to give it all away in the name of easily controllable temporary weakness. I wish you good luck, and if this video has helped you, please show your gratitude by donating to this channel or scheduling a chat. All links in the description. Don't forget to subscribe and follow. Like this video and share it with everyone you care about. For merchandise, go to shop.b434.com. Leave your email address at news.b434.com. Visit the website of the artist and the musician I featured here. For more info or contact, visit b434.com and join 434's social media on YouTube, Facebook, BitChute, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Reddit, Discord, Telegram, VK, TikTok, Tumblr, LinkedIn, Dailymotion, and a few other ones you can see on the screen now. All links in the video description and at b434.com.